right, so welcome back to the Crazy Courage podcast. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a sideways turn on this episode. Normally, I talk to business owners and professionals, but this time I'm going to talk to someone who is actually the product. He's the brand. Now, his name is Stu Schwartz. Some people know him as Stuntman. If you've been in Ottawa for any number of years, you know the voice, you know the face. He's been around. He's everywhere. This guy is fantastic. He always seems to be in a good mood. I don't know how he does it. Must be a lot of Red Bull in there somewhere. I don't know.
A lot of espresso.
Yeah, right. A lot of espresso. There you go. So why don't you tell me a little bit about you and what you're doing right now and what's going on with you?
Well, thank you for the invite to your podcast, Nick. I apologize. My throat's a little raspy. But currently I'm unemployed. I was let go from Move back in February. It's actually been a blessing in disguise. I've never slept better in my entire life. The fact that I don't have to get up at the crack of stupid every morning and come to my basement and broadcast a show as I've done for the last 3 years since the pandemic is a blessing. The fact that I get to drive my kids to school, do things like normal people. Like I drove this morning to Barhaven Port. I had to bring in my vehicle because I got a nail stuck in my tire. And I'm driving back. I'm listening to the radio. But that was my world for almost 30 years. And now I'm a normal person doing normal things, going out to the community. A lot of businesses are contacting me. A lot of clients that were on Bell Media are like, hey, can we advertise with you now? I'm like, sure, let's talk. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So I think you spent 30 years building up your brand.
Yeah.
And you say you're unemployed, but it doesn't sound like there aren't any possibilities there or opportunities. It sounds like you said people have been reaching out to you and trying to get you involved and between Barhaven Ford and the Barhaven BIA. It's not like you stopped. You're not like retired by any means. It doesn't sound
No. I'm about 10 years away from retirement.
10 years away from retirement.
Yeah.
All right.
So I recently signed with Mavericks Donuts as their ambassador. They launched their donuts at Costco for $20. You get, I think, 3 flavors of donuts. And 4 flavors of donuts and a box for $20. And some lady on Facebook said, "Buddy, that's a lot of money." Are you crazy? Delicious fresh made donuts that are actually made in Barhaven and sent to Barhaven. They're like the best. Okay.
So,
yes.
Let's go back in time, right? You're from Montreal originally.
Yes.
Let's get this out in the open. Were you originally a Habs fan?
Yes, and I still love the Habs. I mean, once it's in your body, it never leaves.
Nice.
But I remember getting hired by the Ottawa Senators in 2006, and Roy Malacker, the president at the time, brought me into his office with Cyril Lear, and he said, "I'm going to give you this job under one condition." I was like, "What? You want what?" It's like, you cannot get excited when Montreal comes to town. I don't want to hear you getting excited, and that's in their goals. So one of the first games, I was doing the 3 stars. And they paid tribute to it. Like Claude Latour was the legendary Montreal Canadiens snatcher before Michel Lacroix. And I did La Troisième Étoile, the 3rd star. And I got a mess right away on text. Reminding mine in the 300 left. Are you trying to do Michel Lacroix? I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome. So you like to slip a little bit in there.
But I work, I love the Ottawa Senators. I mean, they're my team. I cheer for the Montreal Canadiens, the old Montreal Canadiens, the one I grew up with. I loved it. I mean, that's the 93 Stanley Cup team was so great. I remember standing outside the Forum with my buddies and going down the parade routes and solving my car in the east end of town, having to call my father at 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, I can't do your car started, Dad. And I told my buddies, I said, you guys better find a taxi. Like, wait, my dad's going to beat my ass. And he showed up at 2:30 in the morning. I thought he was going to kick my ass, but he said, "Okay, just to your insistence." He's like, "Listen, I have to follow him home." But I mean, I love the Habs. How could you not? And then the Ottawa Senators. I mean, what a great opportunity to have for 12 years. My first year, we went to the Stanley Cup Finals, which was very cool.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. Look, I'll tell you, growing up in Ottawa, before we had the Sens, either you cheered for the Leafs or you cheered for Montreal. Yeah. I was a Montreal guy, so I remember the early 90s. That was a dynasty team. Wow, what a fantastic team that was. Those guys were always entertaining to watch. Then we got to Sens, so I'm like, well, now I got to go for the hometown. So I've always been in Ottawa, so I had to make that switch.
As long as Ottawa wins a cup before Toronto, I'm okay with Toronto winning a cup.
Yeah. Oh man, look, my team is usually anyone but Toronto, so I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Right?
Edmonton, you went tonight in overtime.
Oh, let's hope, man.
Yeah.
That would be such a great story to tell, right? That's you see that in the movies and stuff, right? That'd
Mhm.
be a good sports story for sure. Hey, I got to
Yeah.
go for Edmonton tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you were in Montreal. How did you end up in Ottawa?
So I had done 3 years at Dawson College, where I did basically I'd go to the Peel Pub every day for a pint. I was like, do I go to art history class where I can pick up the Greek girl, or do I go to Peel Pub with my buddies and have beer? Peel Pub, beer, Peel Pub, beer.
Sounds fun,
So
right?
Peel Pub won every time. I got kicked out. I left the program after my first year. I took fine arts my first year. I wanted to be a painter. And I realized after one of the assignments that I wasn't cut out for it. The assignment was you had, you had a blank canvas and you had to go home and come up with something. That was the direction. You could paint whatever you wanted. You just had to sell it to the class.
Okay.
So I took that and basically painted an abstract patois. So I went to the class a week later with this patois, and I said, "That's patois. See, if you look carefully, these are his pads. These are the glove, the legendary helmet." And the class was like, "Yeah, whatever." And the teacher's like, "Yeah." And then a student stood there with her white canvas, didn't even play anything on it. She just put a yellow dot in the top left-hand corner and said, "Soleil." I'm like, "What?" And the teacher's like, "Oh, bravo, bravo, bravo." I'm like, "Fuck off. I'm done. I'm done."
That's how you knew you weren't cut out for
Yeah.
art, right? Like I can
Yeah.
get behind it.
I have a very creative mind and I love to draw. And I mean, I painted, but I wasn't cut out for that. I
Okay.
mean, I love looking at art, but once that teacher said, "Bravo," and gave me like a 50 on mine, I'm like, piss off. So I switched into TV in 92. And that was the year that I got a press pass for the Montreal Forum. I lied my way into getting a press pass. So I
Right.
told they told Donald Beauchamp, who was running the PR department at the time, I think he's actually still there. I said, "Yeah, it's Dawson College TV. We have 10,000 students that watch it every day." Truthfully, it was only 20 students that watched it every week in our class. But I had a press pass for certain days where I would go in, and that was in the cup. So I remember asking Jacques Demers a question before the playoffs. I said, "Is Andre Rasker going to see any time in the playoffs?" And he looked at me, and all the reporters turned around and looked at me like I just done something wrong. But everyone was going to ask that. But Michael Whalen from TSN turned to me and said, "Are you looking at my notes?" I said, "No." It's like, "How did you come up with that? Where did you think of that?" I said, "I genuinely wanted to know."
Yeah.
And Jacques Demers answered it beautifully and didn't treat me like a little shit.
Oh.
Treated me with respect. And I thanked him years later at the Sens for that.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you started off in TV for a little bit then.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing radio started doing radio. I got the bug at CIXS Radio Dawson.
Okay.
That's right. I walked in. I said, "I want a job," and it was once a week. But to me, that was like the cat's ass. Like in my head, I was like broadcasting on Shaw, the legendary rock station in Montreal.
Yeah.
And it was heard in the cafeterias. So
nice.
The people in the caf heard me, but nobody really paid attention. But my friends would be like, "Hey, you're on the radio." I said, "Yeah, I was."
That's right.
So I love radio and TV.
And now but you went to school for fine arts, or did you
Yes.
switch? Did you know you wanted to be in radio and TV?
I always knew I wanted to be in radio because I'll never forget my father would drive me to school, and in 1985, I'll never forget, I was listening to Aaron Tasso on Q92, and they're funny when he showed. At the time, I listened to Shalom, I listened to Mix 96, listened to Q92, whatever my father was listening to in the car. I'll never forget. My dad looked at me and said, "I'd love that guy's paycheck at the end of the week," referring to Harry Rand. And a light bulb went off my head. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. What he's doing on the radio. So I got infected with the radio bug. Thanks to my father.
Nice. Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, but you're still in Montreal. How'd you get that?
So I pissed around at Dawson College for about 3 years. And then my buddy said, "Why don't we go to Ottawa?" I said, What do you mean Ottawa?
Just
What's in
on a whim,
Ottawa?
just
Yeah. My
random.
buddy's like, why do we go to Ottawa? There's a radio broadcasting program at Algonquin College. I never even heard of Algonquin College. It was 30 plus years ago. And no, it was actually 30 years ago I moved to Ottawa. And then we came to Ottawa. We got a tour of the campus, which has changed rapidly. I mean, that campus is constantly
Oh, it's expanding, yeah, for sure.
And got a tour of the campus. I fell in love with the school. I just wanted to be away from my parents. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to be on my own. So three of us got in, and we came to Algonquin the fall of '94.
Fall of '94. Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so fall of '94. You took the program.
I got kicked out after the first semester.
You got kicked out. All right.
In December of '94, Don Crawford sat me down in his office, like, look, your grades are okay, but your attitude is just complete shit. And I'm like, what? I had a huge ego back then. I was like, move. I got a radio voice, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'll let you back into the program in the fall of '95. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now? It's like, you can switch into general arts sciences. I'm like, what? That's the gas program. So I switched into that, flunked out of that, and then I had a year under my belt. And I said, you know what, I'm done with radio. I'm going to give up, and I'll work I was working at Spanky's at the time as a bouncer. I remember telling my father,
oh my God, yeah,
where the beef tech was,
yeah,
and then turned into Big Rig.
yeah.
So I remember telling my father on the phone in August of '95. I said, Dad, I'm not going back to school. I've got 4 years under my belt. I don't want to do radio. I don't want to do TV. I want to be a bouncer. I want to work at the bar. He said, no problem. You can do that here, but you can move back to Montreal, live in our house. I said, go back to our house. Your rule? No, not a chance.
Yeah, that's
tough.
Yeah.
So I went back to Algonquin. I was standing in line at the registrar's office. I didn't have an acceptance. I remember there was a woman. There was an elderly woman that used to come into the bar all the time at Algonquin College. And I used to serve her beer at Bert's Bar. And she was the nicest lady. She had gray hair. She always would wear red skirts. And I think her name was Bonnie. And she said, what are you doing here, Stu? I'm like, I'm trying to get back to radio broadcasting. She's like, do you have a letter? I said, no, but Don Proctor told me I could get back in the program. She's like, listen, I'll let you back in the program under one condition. I said, anything. She goes, if you skip one class, I will bounce you out of the school. I'm like, you can do that? She goes, yes, I can. Yeah, she can do it, but she scared the crap out of me. I'm like, no problem. I'm there.
There you go.
And then subsequently, I started in the fall of '95. And the first day of school was on a Tuesday. I remember news writing class with Don Crawford. My teacher had kicked me out of the program a year before. We're going on the class. And I'm like, I'm the big star. I've done this before. Coming into the class, everyone's telling their names. I am Stu Schwartz. I was in the program last year, and blah, blah, blah. And I see this pretty brunette, nice sweater. Her name is Consuelo Bernardi. And I thought she was Mexican. Turns out she's Italian, and she's my wife.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
So did she do anything in I don't know her very well. I'm sorry. Did she do anything in radio or TV?
She it's funny. I remember standing at the payphone when she got her first radio job. She started working as a traffic reporter at 106.9 The Bear, and then went on to different organizers Shay. And then she got a job at XFM. She launched XFM.
Wow.
With Mahler and Rush. She was a program director, and then went on to KISS. She helped launch KISS 105.3, and then when she was pregnant with her son Mateo, she left the business as the program director of Y101.
Okay.
Years later, she went back to the radio business. I remember in 2012, she came back and she worked at our station, being the assistant to the general manager, Richard Gray. And then she eventually became the program director and is now the promotions director at Bell Media.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can't be too mad at Bell Media. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Sorry, we got off track there. But let's get back to so you met this woman and you started dating, I assume.
Yeah.
And then it's a happily ever after story between the two of you for sure. Well, so what happened to you?
So we dated for 8 years. And I was dating her. I was a dog back then. I was like dating her, dating 5 other girls, and she finally paid me back one day by dating somebody that I worked with at 106 and the Bear. And I was like, okay, that's enough. Let's get married.
We gotta nail this down. We can't let this
Yeah.
one go. Right?
Yeah.
Smart. Okay. So you got through college. You survived that.
So after Algonquin College, I started during Algonquin College. I started volunteering at 106.9 The Bear, and I was basically sitting in on the morning show, keeping my mouth shut, watching Doc and Woody do their things. And then one morning, we didn't have social media. We got a heads up that the Tragically Hip, which were a massive band at the time. This was 96, and they were playing a surprise show at Barrymore's, which was a huge club back in the 90s. And Doc looked at me and says, why don't you go down there and call us and report what's going on down there? Apparently there was crowds of people. And unbeknownst to us, Shay got the heads up that Tragically Hip were going to play that night. So in my infantile brain, I decided to go down to Bank Street. I wasn't allowed to drive the Bear van. So I drove my shitty little Cavalier down, parked it on Bank Street. Noticed that on my left side, Shea 106 had all their staff and their morning show broadcasting live. The Bear had nothing. So I was handing out Bear stickers.
Right?
What's that?
You just sent the intern.
Yeah. So I saw that their promotions mattered to Dave Schutte, who's handing out mugs and frisbees. So I thought, in guerrilla marketing, let me take Bear stickers and put that on the stuff. So I would go to somebody saying, give me the mug for a second. They give me the mug. I put a Bear sticker over Shea 106. And I was, doing stupid stuff like that. I got to the point that I had the crowd going, Shea sucks, the Bear rocks, every time they broadcast live. And that really pissed off Shea at the promotions right here. I came back to the station at 10 o'clock and get a standing ovation in the boardroom because we had a meeting. And after the meeting, Doc and Woody sat me down. They said, great job this morning. Remember Doc looking at me saying, okay, we have to give you a fun name. Like, you can't be Stu the college kid. Like, you have to have a catchy name. I said, what do you think? He goes, your choices are Super Stu, Stuntman Stu, or Stuntman Stu. I remember looking at Doc and saying, Doc, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. 30 years later, staying mortgage.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
I'll be 95 years old. Somebody will walk by me and say, hey, Stuntman, I used to listen to you back in the day.
Right? So that's the story of the Stuntman Stu. I never heard that whole story.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that it happened back when you were an intern, but I didn't get the details, and it just turned out that you were a kid just trying to make your way in the radio business, right?
Yeah.
Paid off.
Yeah.
All right, so you went from being an intern, you learned a lot from those guys, though, right?
I did. I learned about how to put a bit together. Like, people are driving to work; they don't have time. They need entertainment, and you can have the goofy characters, but if you're gonna have a goofy character, they got to be funny. And comedy is, if you're not funny, don't write comedy. So I thought I was funny in my head, but Doc didn't think I was funny. I didn't understand timing. With comedy, you need timing.
Yeah.
And I thought I can entertain people by doing stupid shit. And I was a stunt guy. So if they wanted me to go and get duct tape to a street flat at the corner of Robertson and Moody in Bell's Corners and have people throw ice at me, no problem. I would always get a lot of gratification. A listener would come up to me and say, it's my past. Just wanted to listen to you and Doc and Woody. Yeah. I mean, what they're doing to you. I mean, I love that. I love the attention. I love when people would say to me, the fact that they gave me just a couple of minutes of their morning commute was a huge compliment.
That's huge. And that's huge, right? Because, we talk about all these radio morning shows, and I know, a lot of people get away from radio, but radio really, it makes a difference in people's lives. It's a better way to start your day for the most part when you're listening to a show that entertains you. And like, I like music and stuff, but when I'm driving to work in the morning, what I want to hear is some interesting voices and people that are, talking about interesting, funny things, whatever. Yeah, entertainment. And
So I spent 10 years at the Bear. I did every shift. I did overnights. I did evenings. I actually got hired the day after graduation. I had been interning there for about a year and a half, and I remember my program director, George Taylor, who was like a father figure to me. And he called me to his office at noon the day after I graduated. He's like, Stu, I need you to come in. I'm like, boy, so freaking hungover from last night. I graduated college. I had 6 years of post-secondary education. I'm done. So it's like, you got to come in. I'm like, what did I do now? So I come in. So I go in at noon. He's like, I got a job for you. We're taking Trapper from the evenings. We're putting Trapper Bigs on middays. We'd like to offer you the evening position. And I was like, wow. Like, I made it. Like, I left high school 5 years earlier, and here I am, 96 and 97, be offered a job.
That's pretty impressive, though, right? Because
Well,
not a lot of people would have that short of a time span.
I was ready. I was sending out tapes to everyone that would listen to them, and I was prepared to go to Rockville. My good buddy Dan Miller, who now my former classmate who now runs the program, he was trying to get me into Brockville with the late Greg Hinton, which I spoke with many times, to get a job there. And that didn't happen, but I actually stayed in Ottawa with plans of wanting to go to Toronto. I thought that Toronto was the end all and be all. I wanted to be on the radio as a morning guy in Toronto.
It's a huge market.
It is a huge market, but I got an opportunity to do evenings about 2 years later, but it just didn't make sense to go from evening show in Ottawa to an evening show in Toronto. The money wasn't the same. So I said, if I'm going to move to Toronto, it's going to be for a better position in the daytime, like a midday show or an afternoon show. I knew I wouldn't get an offer to a morning show job. And subsequently, by staying in Ottawa, I did evenings, then I did middays, and then I covered afternoons, then I got mornings.
In mornings, that's the golden ticket, right?
Yeah. So I got mornings in 2000. They paired me up with initially with my wife for about a month, which didn't work. And then they hired Bill, Bob, and Robin, who came in from out west. They hemmed and hawed for about a year. Then they put me together with Bill as a morning show. So I've been doing mornings since 2000. And then they brought in Brad Dryden from out west and paired me up with Steph Egan. And it was Brad, Steph, and Stuntman Stu. I'm just looking at my office. There's a photo of the three of us. And we had a great show. We had a really, really fun show. But the problem was that at the time, in 2004, I had been there about 8 years. And Live 88.5 just started on the radio. And they had basically half of one share. And the Bear had a 9 share, which is, millions of dollars.
Huge.
Yeah. And the problem was that we were reacting. In my opinion, I felt that the station was reacting to what this little station was doing. I'm like, why are we reacting to them? We're like the king now. Let them do their stuff. And they had taken one of our staff who basically took the stations, what we've been doing at the Bear, and basically did it better on live. I'm like, you know what? The next 2 years, I was fighting with management. Like, I kept trying to tell them, I'm like, we're not navigating the right way. Like, whatever live is doing, let live do that. Let live be over here. Stay here. It's like what Tim Hortons is doing now. Tim Hortons is trying to be everything to everyone. You can't be everything to everyone. Stick to your brand, and your public will support you. That's right. My opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You got to build brand. That's the way to do it.
So in 2006, I had been there 10 years, and I just said, you know what, I've done everything I wanted to do in radio and rock radio. Yeah. I've been very privileged. I've been very lucky. I've met the biggest bands in the world. I've interviewed a lot of great bands that have heard a lot of great things. But it's time for a change. And I was a big fan of TSN 1200, which was Team 1200.
Yeah.
And so I approached them. I called Chris Gordon. I said, you got anything over at Chum? The Chum was massive back then. Nothing like we are now. My former station, they were like the station, the cluster to go to in town. And I was attracted by the fact that they had the new RO in the same building. I'm like, this could be TV and radio. This could be the perfect fit for me. So he called me back a month later. It's like, Jungle Jim Jerome is leaving the show on Team 1200. Would you like to have a spot? I'm like, well, I can't replace him because I'm not as funny as him. I don't have the graphic connection, but I'll give it a shot. So in November of 2006, I made the move to Some Rock to sports radio.
Okay.
Then
you've always been a sports guy, right? Like, sports is kind of, you've always been in sports.
I like sports, but to be on sports radio, you have to know. your sports inside out, because
Knowledge.
if you
Yeah,
don't, the
right.
audience will rip you apart, and they rip me apart to shreds almost daily, to the
Really?
point that 6 months after I got hired, my former general manager called me. Eric Staff is like, "Would you like to come back to Washington and the Bear?" I'm like, part of me says yes, but I can't. I had my eyes on the bigger prize, because I thought in my head that being in a building that has a TV station is much better for my brand, because I had also started working for the Ottawa Senators, and I just felt it was a better fit for me being at Chum.
Sure.
Chum was great until it was bought by Bell, and then everything changed with Bell. It became very corporate. Decisions were not made locally anymore, and that, eventually that it wore me out, to the point that we got let go in February. But I had a good time. I was there 18 years, and I worked at the sports radio station for 3 years. Then they moved me to Bob FM, which is now Pure Country. They swapped me with GR. They put GR back on Team 1200, which rebranded as TSN. And I was on Bob with Sandy Sharkey, who had been like a number one morning shows with her old host, Kevin McGowan, for years.
Right.
And I was like, she'd gone from Kevin McGowan's GR to me. So I'm like, we had some fun. And then in 2011, I got called in my general manager's office. Like, "I'd like to put you on Magic." I'm like, "Why?" Kevin Nelson is still there. He's like, "Kevin's not doing well. His health isn't doing well."
Okay.
I said, "Okay, put me on Magic at the time. We're going to pair you up with Angie Poirier, who I had known for years downstairs." Okay. Yeah. She hired me to do this radio voice, not radio voices, voiceovers for her ads on the new RO.
Okay.
And I remember cars, Auto Washington, said, "So why cars? We'll have cars as low as $20. We've been friends for 25 years.
Nice.
I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Angie. Yeah, this could work." And then they paired us up, and it was magic from day one.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great. That's great. Wow. That's it's just fantastic. You've got to do so many things. But I think that does, I mean, I know that recently you've just gotten out of radio, but that does speak, what you've just told us is essentially, how things change in radio. Rather, somewhere in the back of your mind, there has to be, like, even though you were doing it for 13 years, there has to be something that says, "Hey, this can't last forever."
Well, I remember in 2015, before I got sick the first time, I'd been there 13 years at Chum, and I said, I remember looking at Angie, I'm like, "How long do you think this is going to last?" She's like, "I think we can do this till we're 60. And so I bought into that. Then I got sick in 2016. So I was off for 18 months. Then I came back in the fall of 2017. And I got sick again in 2020. That put me on the shelf for another year. Then when I came back in 2020, I said, "Okay, I'm not coming back into the station. I'm going to do the show from home." The doctors want me to calm down with the activities, because I was doing nonstop events almost every day when I got back the first time. I told my boss at the time, I said, I cannot go back to the rigorous schedule, because it'll put me back in the hospital for a third time. And that's not. Then I got a heart attack last year. So I've had cancer twice and a heart attack. My wife says, "I'll kill you before anything else does."
Right. I saw the comment. The only thing that'll kill you is getting a Mustang, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that just goes to show, like, you have a story of struggles and resilience. So, okay, so the cancer thing, and well, I know you've talked about this to death, but how difficult is it to be public about that?
Well, it wasn't initially, because I thought I'm going to be off the radio for a while. It was a shock when I heard it. I'll never forget when the oncologist said to me at the hospital, she's like, "You have leukemia." I'm like, "Is that cancer?" And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "Can we beat it?" She goes, "Absolutely."
Right.
Then I remember looking at Doc Chow, the SENS doctor, who took me to the hospital, because I called him. I'm like, "Something's wrong with my body. Can you take me to the hospital?" And I looked at him, because my wife was at home with the kids, and he looked at me and said, "Stu, you're going to be the number one requested person to talk to people about, because you'll become a cancer survivor." So I decided to take it public, because initially it was free therapy for me.
Right.
It's turned out to be bigger than I ever could have anticipated. I mean, people message me almost daily. Stu, my brother-in-law is sick. My father's sick. My sister's sick. My daughter's got this. And now my co-host, Angie Poirier, her son, Nash, is 8 years old, and he's got a rare form of cancer.
Yeah.
I just saw her yesterday, and I, was talking to her son. We've known since day one. We're very, very close. And I said to her, I said, how you doing? She goes, I'm an oncology mom now. So that's her life for the next year and a half. And I told her from day one, you have to get on the roller coaster, go through the highs and lows. I said, there'll be days where you won't want to take the kid into the hospital. Those are the days where you call me, and I'll come, and I'll be the one that sits with Nash for 6 hours while he gets chemo. So I know what that's like. And I said, you know from working with me what I'm like. I mean, you have a miniature version of that with your son.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, you talk about this stuff like it's just, I'll be a survivor. It's not a big deal. Like, surely there's got to be some fear in there somewhere.
I don't allow myself to think of the fear, because when you start thinking of the fear, I remember going down the rabbit hole one night during my first battle, where I was reading this stuff about this mother, same age as me, and she died from it. And
right?
People messaged me. I remember I'll never forget going to Mongolian Village with my kids in Bell's Corners. I love that restaurant.
Yeah.
And somebody came up to me at our table and said, hi, Stu, I'm a big fan. I said, nice to meet you. They said, we're very sorry to hear what you're going through. You'll beat it. And then said, unfortunately, my brother had the same thing, but he passed. I'm like, why would you say that? I've got 2 kids right in front of me. I'm like, thank God my kids are on their phones. Thank God, because I didn't want them to hear that. That I know comes from a good place, and people say dumb things.
Yes.
I've said a lot of dumb things. But that was the only weird part about going public with it, because people would say weird things. And I'm like, don't say this in front of my kids, please.
Right.
But what it's done is it's built the inner strength of my kids. I mean, my kids are my kids. I'm still a dad. I yelled at my kids this morning for doing something dumb. I still get mad. Nothing changes.
Yeah, you're human, right?
Yeah.
After all, I mean, look, it's funny, that comment that you just said from that person in the restaurant. It just, you hear that kind of stuff all the time. People just don't know, I think, how to deal with it themselves, or they want to connect with you on some level and share a story, build some sort of connection, but they don't realize what it does. And I feel like it's like the stories you always hear, women get pregnant, right? And then they always have someone come up to us and like, oh, my sister was pregnant last year and she had these crazy complications. Like, why are you telling the pregnant woman? That's not really what they want to hear.
No. Just say congratulations and shut up.
Congratulations, move on. That's it. That's all you need to say. You don't have to give your personal story unless it somehow occurred. That's geez. Wow. So that's and now, okay. So you beat it once, right? You beat the cancer once, and then you had to go back. Did you know the second time that what was going on?
No, I was. It was January 20th of 2020. I was getting up in the morning and getting ready to go to work, and I had a nosebleed that lasted for a lot longer than I anticipated. And I started to worry about what happened the last time I got sick, where I had nosebleeds that would last forever. Like, I had nosebleeds that lasted for like 2-3 hours. And
really? Okay.
So this nosebleed lasted an hour and a half, and I knew I had to go to the hospital. So I went back in the hospital. Sure enough, they said, you have cancer. And the poor kid that had to deliver this news to me was a resident. He's like, I said to him, I said, just tell me. He's like, I'm not allowed to tell you. I said, if I get cancer, just look me in the eyes and tell me I have cancer. He's like, you have cancer. I'm like, fuck. And my co-host Angie came in, and she was there with me that morning. And I just said, here we go. Got to beat it again.
So there was no doubt that you'd beat it again. You did it once.
Well, I mean, there was some doubt. I remember talking to my doctor, Dr. Kekri, on Zoom in March of 2020. And she said, I'm going to be honest with you, you have a 40% chance of living.
Well, what was the chance? What were the odds the first time?
Odds were much better the first time. I was in the best shape of my life.
Okay.
It was for the first time, and I was 42. So I sailed through chemo the first time like it was nothing.
Okay.
the week leading up to the bone marrow transplant in 2016, what they have to do is I basically say, you have a computer and with a bad operating system, you delete the OS system from your computer and reload it. That's basically what they did to me. They cleared out my DNA to zero.
Right.
And you're basically a walking corpse into the hospital.
Jeez.
So I had radiation and chemo for another week. Then the bone marrow transplant is a blood transfusion. Gets in you, then your body has to learn to get along with you, blood running through your veins.
Wow.
You can have a multitude of complications. I had very dry skin to the point that I needed cream on my face. But I got off lucky because there's a lot of patients where the blood does not meet with the body, and the body tries to reject it. Thankfully, my body didn't reject it. And then I had several years of going back to the hospital, whatever. And then in 2020, because there wasn't allowed any visitors in the hospital, I was there alone, which sucked. I wasn't even allowed to leave the room beside CD facility, which is a thing you get.
That's a terrible.
And it was like a jail cell.
Wow.
But the nurses were fan-fucking-tastic. Yeah, I mean that wholeheartedly. The doctor would come in and say, blah, 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 blah. Then the nurse would come in and dumb it down for you. And there were days where I was like mentally exhausted. I didn't know what to do. I remember saying to my buddy Josh in the beginning of June, I said, I've got 31 days till I get out of here. He was like, okay, because I'll walk with you. Like, I'll be with you. Thank God he was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And
yeah.
But you did it twice. You beat cancer twice. Like, that's just so impressive. And publicly both times. Like, that's I gotta tell you, I don't know how you do it. And you don't know me from Adam, and I'm just a guy. You see me in Costco or Walmart or wherever, grocery store, you see me, you're gonna forget about me, right? And if I was in a bad mood, I was in a good mood, you won't remember that. You'd just be like some goofball was being a jerk or whatever, like he had a frown on his face, whatever. But when people see you, right? Anytime you're on TV and doing interviews, your photos, you always got a smile on your face. Is that hard to maintain when you're just doing your own thing?
Well, I'll give you an example. Yesterday I went to Farm Boy with my daughter, and we were having. I walked in the Farm Boy and I slipped on my ass. And I walked into the store, and I felt embarrassed. And the guy said, "Stu," I said, "Yeah." He lifted me up, helped me up. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, more embarrassed. I felt like wearing flip-flops, which are always work. So I had that going on. I was pissed off about that. I hadn't eaten lunch. My daughter was getting on my nerves. And I remember we were leaving the cash register, and I said, "Isabella, can you carry this?" And she's like, "No, I'm carrying this." And I kind of made a rough face towards her. She's like, "Daddy, you can't have a face like that. We're in public." And I had to remind myself that I am in the public, and people might recognize me or may not, but I have to be on my game when I walk at the door.
Right. Yeah, and
I have to be on my game when I'm here. Somebody rings doorbell. And I remember my father used to slam, whenever somebody would come to the door trying to sell something, my father would like, he's slamming the door in my face. I can't do that. These kids came up to my door the other night. We want your phone. I said, "No, I already have somebody doing that, but thank you very much."
Yeah. And you always have to be polite. You always have to. So that's got to be tricky, right? I mean, everyone has bad days. But it just seems like you're not allowed to have bad days when you're in public. You have to keep that stuff for home or when you're in your car in your own little bubble. That's a little trickier for sure.
If you drive by me and you see a Mustang pulled over and you see a guy losing his temper, that's me. I'm yelling. I decide to pull over, get it on my system, and I'll be fine.
Well, that's smart. That's a smart thing to do. Better than just driving around with road rage all the time. Yeah, sure. And I get it. Driving around, there's so many people out there, not paying attention. And I'm sure people have yelled at me for whatever I've done too. So I'm not a perfect driver. I can say that. But I always thought being a recognizable face or a celebrity of any kind, that would be one of the trickiest things. Just being out and just having to put on a face, even though you're not performing per se.
I remember my daughter when she was, she's 16 now. When she was 3, she had a meltdown at IKEA, and that store is impossible to get out of. Yeah. So I threw her over my shoulder because she wanted a stuffed animal. I said, "Isabel, you got 1,000. I'm not buying you another stuffed animal. I want a stuffy." So I threw her over my shoulder and walked up. I said to my wife, "You deal with our son. I'm taking her to the car." and I throw her on my shoulder. She's wailing, and I feel like, hey, Stuntman Stu. No, not today. Not
A
today.
little busy.
Yeah, I'm a little busy. I'm being a dad. And Flinny told me on Facebook, I had Stu today, and he's being a bad father with
Right?
a dad.
You're gonna be judged for everything too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I saw Stu throwing his ass at Farm Boy. Like, I can't walk.
Yeah.
Like, it just, everyone else is like, man, that guy was hilarious when he fell. They don't remember who it was. They don't remember my face. But I did something stupid. They just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just some random guy.
I mean, life of getting paid by being stupid, so might as well continue it.
Yeah, you roll with it, I guess. So that's good at least, right? Oh, that's awesome. So much fun. Wait, are you naturally a morning person?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so you wake up at when you're on the radio, you're waking up at 3 a.m. or whatever it was.
It was 3:30 in the morning when I had to go down to the station, and then when I started doing the show from home, I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Nice. and connect at 6.
And again, that's another thing. Like, not that I ever want to be on radio. I'm sure I couldn't entertain the masses nearly as well as you can. But I always thought, could I do, is this the kind of thing that I could do mentally? And I think I can't. There's no way. There's days I wake up, I can't put on that awesome face,
Well, there were plenty of mornings where I would be in a bad mood, and there were mornings where I'd let it show, and my co-host would say to me, listen, leave your bullshit at the door. Nobody wants to hear it. And I never fought with Angie. We had maybe 2 disagreements the entire time that we worked together. It was over stupid things on my part. She was a consummate professional, and I mean, the greatest broadcaster I ever worked with. The only one who could put up with my bullshit, because I was not an easy guy to deal with. Anyone that's worked with me has always said, he's a little tricky, he's a little prickly.
That's awesome. But yeah, I don't think I can do it. I thought about it. I couldn't do a morning show. No way. I can't and I know that's the pinnacle of radio, because that's when you have the best audience, the biggest audience, right? When they're driving into work, getting ready, and you're trying to get these people in a good mood to slog through another week at whatever 9 to 5 they've got. But I mean, man, hats off to you for doing it for however many years. Yeah,
I loved it. One of my former listeners who runs an electrical, he's an electrician. Mark Duga is coming to my house today, and I texted him. I said, "Can you come by?" I said, "Something's wrong." My wife said, "Call Mark because you can't fix anything." I said, "Okay, I'll call him." So I get to keep track of our former listeners who I love. That's the one thing I miss. I miss the interaction on a daily basis.
Right.
I say that, but I mean it and I don't mean it. I mean it because I love the audience, but I don't mean it because there's days where it's like it's too much.
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
Yeah, because when you're on the radio, you choose that time to interact. It's between a certain time frame, right? Whereas now you're out at Costco and you're like, look, I've got kind of other things I got to focus on, or whatever, right? So I get that. You're not choosing the time that you get to interact, and it just it's a little different for sure. Now, how hard is it to find a co-host that has good chemistry with you? Because that's there's no secret formula for that, right? Like, you just throw people in a room and hope for the best.
Well, I mean, I've had great co-hosts. I mean, and Bill Tothan, who I work with at Washington on the Bear, is a big time morning show guy in Hamilton for a country station. We talk all the time. Brad Dryden and I work together. He's at not Bounds. He's at station in Halifax, and he's doing well. 17 years now with Chio, and I talk to her like every couple of months. And it's always the same bullshit. It's always like the stupid things I say to her back 20 years ago, I still say to her on text. It's like, you've never changed. I said, no, I'm still the immature kid.
Why would you?
But I have a lot of respect for the people that came before me. I was a stupid young guy at times where I butted heads with Doc a lot, and he said, you're going to end up being a sales guy. And thankfully, I didn't end up being a sales guy.
Yeah.
But we butted heads a lot because he had the experience and I was too dumb to understand it.
Right.
And too dumb to appreciate it. But now that I'm older, I appreciate the lessons that he taught me. And I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Like I mean, sure, you get thrown in with a co-host, you're going to have, be different points in your career, different things going on, different expectations. I mean, that's got to be tricky for sure. Now, obviously, it worked well with you and Angie.
Yeah, totally.
I was, work wife, I would say, probably, and had your wife at home, who was your rock, and taking care of everything.
We were close. We would vacation together. her family and our family and two other families would vacation every summer at her cottage on in Gananoque, and that was very cool. I mean, we were friends, and we still talk almost daily, and I miss the interaction, but I know eventually we'll pair up in some form, in some either emceeing something together or just not doing a show together. I think broadcasting is done for me. I say that now, years now. Who knows? I'll be somewhere, but I can't see myself ever doing the morning show ever again because
No.
I don't care how much money it is. Just going back to that time, it's not a factor for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You did it. I mean, you did
Yeah, I
it.
did.
You're ready to move on to other things. Is that kind of like your time with the sets? You know, you did it.
Well, I didn't want to give up that gig. I love that gig, but I became so I got a lot of radiation on my brain in 2016, and that really screwed up me reading a script from that point on because the brain goes faster than the mouth. So I stuttered a lot, and you can't stutter when you're doing a gig like that.
Right.
And like I can't even read a script now because for me it's my brain is overloaded. I can't even see something anymore by myself because I told Angie, said I have the fear of the crowd. Like I used to do this, I used to MC stuff without even thinking about it.
Yeah, standing on your head, sure.
Yeah, but now I feel like a room is hanging off my every word. It scares the shit out of me. So I said, "Can you be my fallback? Can you host it with me?" So we had something until her son got sick. Now she's going to deal with her son, which I respect. And I told people honestly, I said, I can't do it. But you want to find somebody to co-host with me? No problem. So on July 4th, I'm co-emceeing the U.S. Independence Day celebrations at the U.S. Ambassador's house with Catherine Clark, who I've known for many years. And I remember asking her, I said, you want to be my co-host? She's like, I'd love to, but I can't. I don't want the hours. She's really cool to work with.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so broadcasting, you haven't quite shut the door, but radio morning definitely is not like.
Well, the business is changing rapidly, and people still want the content. The content will never go away. It's how they're creating the content. So you and I are doing a podcast now, which can live forever. And my brain is so used to doing it, like, here we go, on the spot. Like, listen, live interaction. Yeah. It's just you and I right now, but I'm used to talking to thousands of people.
Yeah, right.
I miss that. Something comes along where that becomes an opportunity again in some way, shape, or form. I'll entertain it, but we'll see.
For now, you're happy.
We'll see what the gods have.
Yeah. That's awesome. It seems like you've always just your whole career just kind of rolled with the punches and moved on from one thing to the next.
You have to. If you don't reinvent yourself, then you'll be like Madonna, who's almost 70 and doesn't relate to her audience anymore.
Yeah, that's a rough one for sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up with Madonna in the 80s and 90s, and I've definitely moved away from her and whatever she's got going on now for sure. Yeah. I mean, you seem like. Oh, how different is Stu today from the kid that was, just starting off in radio? I mean, you had an ego. Now you're more humble. Lessons learned for sure, but
I'm more humble and definitely a lot of thousands of lessons learned. But I'm the same guy. I mean, ask anybody that went to college with me. I'm the same guy. I'm just as stupid. I'm just as goofy. I have a little less hair, but I'm just the same dumbass from college.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I mean, it was working for you then. I don't know. You found a way to turn being the class clown into a career. That's great.
You just hit the nail on the head because my entire childhood I was always dubbed the class clown.
Right.
I was always in the principal's office. I was always getting in trouble. My father would have to, we please excuse to school say for another detention. My parents saw us get calls from the school. I was the class clown.
Did your parents ever say that? They're like, my God, you turned it into a career. How did you do that?
Yeah.
All those times in the principal's office, who knew that you were actually studying for something greater? That was That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so you work for Barrhaven Ford. That's going to go on for a while.
Yeah, so I signed with them 3 years ago, and they continue to keep me on. They're like, you're doing good stuff. You still do our radio ads, sure. And they're a great partner to work with. They let me do whatever the hell I want within parameters.
Sure, of course.
But they're so good to work with. I love those guys. And I'm finding my way. Like I'll be like a NASCAR driver. I'll buy it from the front of Maverick so much over here, and I'll have two more here, but I can't see it
Yeah.
there.
Oh, we can't say it yet. All
Yeah,
right.
I
All right.
got a couple of irons in the fire and shoot out.
Nice, nice. All right, we can't say that's the problem with being in entertainment. You really can't talk about future projects until they
Yeah,
come to fruition, right? I get that.
yeah,
That's too bad. It's too bad, but it's great at the same time. It's exciting for you.
yeah.
And so the summer, what does that look like for you? There's going to be a dunk tank coming up for sure.
Yes, I bargained for it on July 6th, and we'll raise a lot of money for childhood cancer Chio.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. My summer is going to be very quiet. I told the family, I said, I put you guys through enough shit the last 7, 8 years. Let's just have a summer of nothing. And that's what we're going to have.
Is your family happy for is it a blessing in disguise
Yes,
for
it
your
is.
family?
Yeah.
I mean, Connie, look, you know what? This is kind of great. We can actually do what we need to do and be a family again and enjoy you. Yeah. And do kids ever, were they ever like, Dad, we just want you to ourselves, while you're doing all the gigs and stuff?
Well, I mean, I think that they don't know any difference. That's been their life since they
grew
wanted
up, right.
They grew up around me, always going to events, and there's days where it gets on their nerves, having a dad who's posing with his shirt off on Facebook. My son said, "Why are you doing this? Like everyone at school is coming up to me." I'm like, "Okay."
Awesome. So you embarrass them? That's good, right?
Yeah.
You have to do that. That's part of being a dad. You can't embarrass your kids enough. You're not doing your job properly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Who is your favorite person that you've interviewed over the years? Anyone stick out? Band. It could be a band. It could be a group.
Warren Cromartie, the former Montreal Expo. I know, and a lot of people don't know him because he played for the Expos in the early 80s, but he came down to Team 1200, and we spent 90 minutes talking to this gentleman, and I was like in awe. He was honest about everything. He answered questions about Barry Bonds and what he thought of him, and I had the opportunity to interview the biggest stars in sports. I mean, I've been involved with the Celebrity Sports Center for the last 20 years. You name it. They come through town. I probably posed the picture, asked them a question. But the best one for me is Dan Marino. He came to town years. Dan Marino came to town years ago. I was on stage with him, and so the organizer said, "How do we sell a ball?" I'm like, "What do you mean, sell a football?" So I sold a football. I said, "Dan Marino's going to throw the football at you. You're going to catch the ball from Dan Marino."
Nice.
So my buddy put his hand up. I think he paid $8,000 to receive a catch from across the room from Dan Marino. So I said, "Dan," I remember asking, "Are you sure you can get my buddy?" He's like, "Can I come on. I have a photo of that. I love that photo. But yeah, I mean, I've been very blessed to interview. I'm looking at all the people that I've interviewed, all the senators and whatever. They're just people. Yeah, they're just people. I mean, the ones you remember that I remember meeting Howie Mandel outside the Hotel Montreal years ago. And I went to shake his hand. He goes, "Fist bump." So that was my first introduction to the fist bump.
Yeah. Yes, I could see how you would do that.
Yeah. And remember meeting Homer and Marge Simpson outside the hotel. And I said, "Oh my God, you're Homer Simpson." Like, he has heard that a million times. It's like, "Can you just give me a line?"
Haven't heard that a million times either.
Very cool.
That's awesome. That's so much fun. So obviously a lot of great memories along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just looking to make a few more before you hit 60 and retire, I guess.
Whatever the gods have planned for me, I'll just ride the waves.
So is it exciting not knowing what comes next, or is that a little, I wish I knew? No, because I've had 30 years of I wish I knew. So now somebody said to me on LinkedIn after I got they said, "Stu, you've been doing it by everyone else's rules for the last 30 years. The next 10 years, you do it your way." Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the wave of the future. I mean, really, yeah. I mean, like you said, radio is changing, broadcasting changing. Yeah. There were, a lot of people high up making those crazy corporate decisions from a market that is unfamiliar with how audio works. But, and then you have things like, well, all these podcasts and all these guys coming out of the woodwork, just doing it however they want to do. Right. So it's, the landscape definitely is changing for sure. And I see your posts on Instagram, the videos you're creating, you do it your way now. With the Bar Haven 4, they're not just, 30-second spots that you're just reading some copy. Like you're just kind of doing a fun video that throws the name Barhaven Ford in there,
Yeah.
which is, it just, I mean, it sounds like more fun. And if you're a creative guy, it sounds like you get, you know, creative license to do almost whatever you want.
If you give a creative guy freedom, you'll get an explosion of talent.
Right?
And I'm not saying that I'm an explosion of talent, but I'm just saying I go to clients reach out to me. I say to them right away, I said, if you want a vanilla guy talking about tent sales and 10% off, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm a guy who does it my way. And just trust me with my way. I won't tell you how to sell. You don't tell me how to do my job. And
Right?
I say that. I don't say that to be a jerk. But why would I tell you how to insult something? Like the electrician that's going to come to my house today. Mark, do I tell you how to do it? No. I'll tell you. That's what you do.
I don't care how you do it, just get it done. And
Exactly.
you know, if it's done, you know, if it works, the light switch works afterwards, then you did a good job. I'm happy. You know, Barhaven Ford, their name gets out there, people remember it, you know, and that's really what's important. Well, that's awesome, Stu. Stu, I'm going to thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to speak with me, just a lowly, humble podcaster, trying to hear someone's stories and talk to some great people. That's my thing. I love that. But I love what you're doing. I love what you've been doing. Big fan for forever. So
Thank you, Nick.
Just please keep entertaining us. I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, don't fall on the floor too many times at farm boy. Unless you get it on video.
I should sue them. I don't want any money. I just want having free groceries.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Get it on video at least if you're gonna have a tumble.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Nick, thank you very much. This has been a great podcast.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.